Hmm.
Welcome to the Monterey Regional Airport regularly scheduled meeting. Well, it wouldn't be regularly because we had to move it over one day due to a holiday. Continued meeting. It's June 20th. It's 8:03. If you haven't already done so, if you could please silence your cell phones. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Gagliotti,
Here.
Director Pick,
Here.
Director Miller,
Here.
and Chair Leffel will join soon.
Chair Leffel will be joining us in a few minutes. Pledge allegiance. Director Gagliani, can you help us?
Absolutely. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, communications and announcements. Does any member of the board have an announcement they wish to make?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, none for me. How about staff, Mr. Lapierre?
None from staff.
Okay. Public comment. If a member of the public wishes to speak, you'll be given 3 minutes to do so. We only ask that it not be on an agendized item. You'll have an opportunity to speak when that item is heard. Does any member of the public wish to address the board at this time? Please raise your hand, come forward, and state your name.
My name is Joyce Hofferman. Hello, I am not a speaker, but that's why I have something prepared for you. Monterey County Civil Grand Jury issued an airport report May 1st, 2024. The grand jury looked into the operation of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District and its response to community noise complaints. Most of the grand jury recommendations for the Monterey Peninsula Airport District centered around developing a better response to the citizens' noise complaints and airport transparency. The grand jury recommended as a solution to develop a citizens committee to provide community input regarding Monterey Peninsula Airport District operations and noise mitigation efforts. According to the report, the Citizens Committee needs to be approved by October 31st, 2024. I have complained to the airport and the airport noise ombudsman multiple times. Neither one has responded to me. I live in a historic house registered with the Library of Congress. It has no insulation, original windows. The aircraft fly in all different directions, over, near, and back in front of my house, making conversation and enjoyment of my house difficult at times. The outside noise from the aircraft is as loud outside as it is inside my house. As I researched the lack of response from the airport and FAA, I discovered it is widespread. The FAA is making changes to airspace across the U.S., impacting many communities with loud airport noise for the first time. These communities that used to enjoy peace and quiet. In my research, I discovered a lawsuit that sounded similar to what is happening with the Monterey Airport and FAA. In the lawsuit, the City of Phoenix versus FAA, the FAA said new paths are safer, more efficient, and save fuel, but the city argued those benefits were too loud to bear. As a result, the city filed a lawsuit against FAA and won. The city manager wrote to FAA. The FAA moved flight paths over area residents without public input process. This sounded to me like the same problem our community is experiencing. Monterey Airport and FAA are not listening to the community and not responding to them. In the above lawsuit, historical neighborhoods successfully rolled back the flight paths to what was established when the airport was built. Our community wants a seat at the table. listen to the community, listen to whatever they are experiencing, and you will make a much better response. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Uh,
you, Mrs. Hoffman.
Director Leffel came in at 8:05 and the board is now hers.
Thank you. Good morning. Do we have any other public comment on the item that is not on the agenda? Mr. Grobecker, how are you?
Monterey Fly Safe Coalition sent you a few recommendations by email yesterday, which I hope was informative and would make it easier for this board to make a decision. We hope that you will have an open discussion with your staff about a long overdue review of our noise abatement policies. This last email was an extension of our first one we sent out to you on June 2nd. And if possible, we would like to receive your response by latest July 31st. Meanwhile, we would like for this board of directors to put a hold on adding more commercial flights to the already busy flight schedule at this airport until we get the desired Community Action and Safety Committee off the ground and have the public actively involved in this process. We also request for the airport website to show any written correspondence you receive from the public or any item that is on the agenda that month. We would recommend for staff to add such correspondence to the monthly board meetings packet. Transparency is of utmost importance, especially now for the public to regain trust. We also would like for this board to consider moving the monthly board meetings to 6 and 7 p.m. evening hours so that more people from the public who work during the day have the opportunity to be present at your board meetings. Many people cannot get off work during early morning hours. I thank you for your hard work and for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak?
Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak on Zoom.
All right, I will close public comment. Thank you. I apologize for being late. 2 dogs instead of 1 today. It took me a little longer. We have a consent agenda and there are items 1 through 7, and I am going to pull number 6. Is there anyone from the public who would like to pull any of these items to speak on? All right. Do any of my other board members have anything they'd like to pull?
Nope.
All right.
I'll move for passage of the consent agenda except for item number 6.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. For the minutes of marketing air carrier service, I know that we did have a little bit more robust discussion on 2 items than what was actually in the minutes. And I think in lieu of public comment today, it's important that they understand. We did have a discussion about the discussion that you, Mr. Lapierre, were having with the airlines, asking them to push back their earliest start date, their start time. So I would like that to be in the minutes because it was a discussion and you have had it. So I think people need to realize that. The second thing was on the issue of restrooms. I think that Director Pick did ask that we explore the fact that we would put on any of our single restrooms that they would say all gender, as opposed to the male and female symbols. So those 2 things I think need to be reflected because we are aware of things changing and what we need to do. So,
Thank you for making those comments. I'll move approval with those amendments.
Second.
okay, roll call, please.
Can I make a comment?
Certainly.
We seem to be having a lot of interest in this comes periodically. Groups form about noise here at the airport. perhaps the Marketing and Air Service Committee can make an outreach and invite them, maybe even have a evening committee meeting.
I will, but this is the minutes and that's not appropriate because we're talking about the minutes, sorry.
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, regular agenda. Item number 1, interview and consider candidates for a vacancy on the Monterey Peninsula Airport District Board of Directors in Division 1 for an unexpired term ending December 2024. And I believe we had one candidate.
We do,
applicant.
Madam Chair. We have one candidate. It's Carol Cherbajian. She met all of the requirements and criteria for filing the application. It was filed on a timely basis, was filed in person. So I believe you could consider her as one of your candidates.
All right. Carol, are you in the audience?
Yes.
Would you like to address the board, please?
Good morning. Hear me? Is it on? Good morning. My name is Carol Chorbajian. I have been in Monterey for 48 years now. I came here to graduate school at the Monterey Institute and knew I was going to leave and didn't. And I now am in an industry that is unrelated to my studies, but hospitality. I have a business where I have meeting and event planning and transportation. And I am very passionate. I actually did grow up in the airline industry. My father flew for Pan Am for 44 years. My mother was actually a registered nurse and a stewardess when you had to be an RN to fly overseas. So I grew up in the airline industry. I liked, and general manager of the Portola Hotel asked me a couple of weeks ago, where was your favorite place to sit in the plane? I said, in the cockpit with my father, because I could. But I love the hospitality industry. I am passionate about aviation as well, and I will do everything that I can to help the destination and the airport. And excited now that there is, with the new terminal and that's coming up, I think it's just a great opportunity for all of us because my business is mostly group, and I think that's one place where it will really benefit the area and not bring too many people in for too much time, which a lot of, I know, the residents are concerned about.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up for questions. Director Pitt?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for stepping up. Great to see you here this morning, Carol. So one question I would have for you, obviously this is completion of a term, and without a hard and fast commitment looking forward, is this something you're looking at as just to complete a short-term objective here, or something you'd stay with longer term if that should work out at the ballot?
Longer term.
Very good.
Yes.
That's the only question I have.
All right, Director Cagliari?
I had the same question, and I imagine it was probably on the minds of all of us.
I've already
Director
talked to
Miller?
somebody about making signs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Director Miller?
Hi. Thank you, Carol, for applying. I've had an opportunity to read your packet. Usually, there's some issue that attracts a member of the public that wants to sit on our board. What is it you really hope to accomplish, or what would you like to see happen here?
At the, I would like, well, I think, that I want to see the airport needs to be successful for businesses in Monterey County to be successful. I think that from my business, people coming into Monterey, the experience flying into Monterey is vastly better. And it's kind of counter to my business because if I bring people in from San Francisco and San Jose airports, I can make more money off of it. However, the experience is much better for them coming in and out of Monterey. And what's really important to all of us around here in the industry is repeat business. It's a much easier thing to sell than a first piece of business. So I think that my being able to help us be successful here and bringing in, as I said, my in group business is going to help everybody and it helps every industry too. Ag, when they have people coming in, again, the entire experience here is so much better coming into Monterey and leaving from Monterey than having to go in the traffic and the hassle of going to another airport. So that again makes us, and people think it's funny because people say, people around here act like they like what they do. And I'm like, yeah, we actually do. It's funny, but it's such a positive experience coming here that I think that this can only help to enhance that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Carol. I know that you live in a tiny little slice of Monterey. Are you involved with your neighborhood association?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I think that's one of the things that we see is we don't do a good enough job of being out in the neighborhoods and telling them what we're doing and explaining why. So then there's confusion and sometimes disillusion. So
Still confusion even when they know what's going on, I
Yeah.
think sometimes, but yes, I am. And I, on one of the things that I'm in, because I'm on the Measure P&S Oversight Committee too, in the city of Monterey, representing, they wanted some hospitality people representing. So I've been doing that, and that again is involved with the neighborhoods, trying to explain to them why their street has been done or hasn't been done yet.
is it good? Well, I think that we are happy that you have stepped forward. It doesn't take a lot of time, most of the time. Sometimes it gets pretty intense. We are in a very, I would say, pretty intense period right now while we're finishing the design of the terminal and with all of the other projects that are all going on in our airport safety project. So it's probably a good time to come because you'll be in and kind of see how the sausage is made, so to speak. And we've got very seasoned staff that we're very proud to work with. So that's also a good time to come in. You'll have people to learn from, both board-wise and staff-wise. So with that, I would say, do we need a vote?
So, Madam Chair, actually, the consideration is item number 1. Item number 2 on your agenda is, should you desire to appoint this candidate, you have the ability to do that. All options are open to you. You have up until July 30th to make a decision, but yes, if you'd like to do that now, item number 2 would be on the agenda is where you would do that.
All right. So I would entertain a motion. Public comment. Sorry, didn't open it up for public comment. Anyone on Zoom that would like to speak on this topic, please raise your hand.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. Bring it back to the board for a motion on resolution number 1876, a resolution appointing a member to the Board of Directors of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District to fill a vacancy.
I move that we appoint Carol. Now help me again with your last name,
Shabazian.
Shabazian.
It's
Yeah.
actually pretty easy for Armenian.
It just
True.
just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? To fulfill the open position for District 1.
Second.
Or-
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any other discussion? A roll call, please.
Director Gagliardi?
Aye.
Director Pick?
Aye.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chair Leffel?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Carol. And I believe that our attorney will swear you in.
I'm happy to issue the oath of office.
Thank you.
I, state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties on which I'm about to enter.
We have a seat all ready for you.
Too late.
There was that part about no mental reservation.
Denise, would you give this to Scott for me? Please. Thank you. All right. And your microphone turns on right down at the base, Carol. All right. Resolution number 1877, a resolution authorizing and approving the rates and charges of the Monterey Regional Airport for fiscal year 2025. Is that you, Mr. Wilson?
It is me indeed. Good
right.
morning, board. So we are going to be asking the board to consider 4 related resolutions this morning. 1877, which has to do with rates and charges, 1878, which has to do with the salary schedule, 1879, which has to do with the operating expenditure budget, and 1880, which has to do with the capital budget. For the benefit of the new director, we had a special meeting on May 21st, which we styled the budget workshop. And so the existing board members have all had an opportunity to review all elements of this budget and related resolutions prior to this meeting. There was one comment made coming out of the budget workshop in terms of adding a recruitment expense to the operating budget, which staff has done. So the first item is the resolution asking to approve the rates and charges. The rates and charges schedule in your book has 1 page that needs to be corrected. So I will hand that out to the existing board members and actually.
It's the first tab in your
Yeah,
binder,
and
Carol.
I think, yes, and the new director's book has already been substituted in.
The ones we got in the,
The ones you got in your overnight
Okay.
package,
Yep.
correct?
thank you,
Thank you.
thank you.
So again, for the benefit of our new director, the rates and charges schedule is approved annually, and the rates and charges schedule drives a significant portion of the economics of the revenue of the airport. And since this has been reviewed and discussed in conjunction with the plan of finance for the airport for the future replacement terminal, I would ask that the board consider this resolution, and we're open to any questions that you might have.
Would you just, so that we know that we're on the record with it, just discuss what we decided to do with the parking fees? Does anybody want to take that of the parking, of why we're not
Why we're
changing
not
the
increasing.
parking?
Yes.
Sure, absolutely. As you drove in, you see that we are now active in the temporary parking lot. And there will be a number of changes throughout the year to that parking arrangement. We didn't feel it was appropriate that we increase parking fees during that period, so we've held those constant. Not saying that we will not ask you to increase those next year, but for at least right now, I think it's important that we continue to maintain status quo It's going to be a little bit more, not difficult, but different for the passengers that are parking along here to access the building. So that's the thought behind it. That's the one change that we chose not to make based on, although our plan of finance did mention that we could.
I want to make sure it's in the record, Mr. Lapierre, because about 3 or 4 years ago, when the grand jury looked at us, one of their findings was that we had not raised the parking rate and that we were missing revenue, which actually we had raised the parking rate during that time. They just missed it. But I want to make sure that since we are not raising it this year, that it's very clear of why we are not, that we are trying to assist our community. We know we're causing some disruption and that we're not going to charge them more while we're doing it. So just for the record, so someone can go back and read it if they would.
I need to make a point of clarification. So in terms of the premium short-term parking, there is a scheduled increase.
Correct.
Mr. Wilson?
And also in the short-term parking, there's no increase. For the long-term, we have a delayed increase of October 1st. That's what's in the rates and charges schedule here.
That is correct.
Okay.
And that is when we will have our parking, our permanent parking completed. We will not address parking increases until that time. So during the construction, we will not increase parking.
And we have the ability that if there is still disruption, that we can delay that.
You have full ability to do that.
There was a number of things that we were talking about parking in finance. There was a request for the lease. Is that-
That's on the parking, that's on another item.
Okay, yeah,
This
I
is
knew
the
that, I
rates.
knew that the two were connected.
Yeah.
Okay, because we wanted to be able to read the lease just to know what the rules of the road are. I didn't see that in the packet. Will that be delivered or will that be produced?
Sorry, I thought that was to be distributed, but apparently there was miscommunication here.
It is not in the package.
Yeah, not a problem. We'll make
There's
sure
just
you
one
get it.
page in there.
Yeah, we'll make sure that you get it.
All right, but these two things are, the discussion happened at the same time, so
Yeah.
I'm wondering if were they late?
No.
All right, okay,
Item number 9 will be
okay.
that issue,
All
but
right.
thank you.
Yeah.
Because we did ask for it.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there a requirement, a noticing requirement for changing rates? Or may they be changed if you make a decision, may they be changed at any time? Is there any public requirement in saying you have to give X number of time notice before you change rates?
So this body has the ability to establish rates and charges. There is a general noticing requirement, but it is the same as the typical Brown Act requirement. You got to notice it, put it in the agenda, and give some basis for it in the agenda, and then
Okay.
you either adopt it or you don't. But the noticing requirements are actually identical to the Brown Act.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I open this up for public comment. Do you have any public comment on Zoom? If so, raise your hand.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'll close public comment and bring it back for a motion.
I'm sorry, I did have one more comment.
That's okay.
Okay. That was on the Northeast hangars. This reflects, I guess the reason that the new price would be in a different budget is that why that
That is correct.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, the confusion this week over the date of implementation of the
Yeah.
increase necessitated the change
Got it.
of that page.
Okay,
That's the
that-
only thing that's changed.
That explains why the page reads
Yep,
the way it is.
exactly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
for the clarification. I apologize, Chair.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Director Miller?
No.
Director Pitt?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
All right. Are we looking at 77 through 80?
We are just looking at 77.
Just 77.
Yeah.
I'll move adoption of resolution 1877.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Director Gagliardi? Oh, excuse me. Is Director
Shabazian.
Shabajian going to vote?
Yes.
It's,
Yeah.
yes, if she feels comfortable voting on it, yes.
Director Shabajian?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Pick?
Yes.
Director Gagliardi?
Aye.
Chair Leffel?
Yes, thank you very much. All right, item number 4 is resolution number 1878, a resolution authorizing and approving the fiscal year 2025 salary schedule, listing salary ranges for the Monterey Peninsula Airport District. And who will take that one?
I will be taking that one again.
All right,
Again, for background, this was included in the material that was distributed to the board for the budget workshop in May. And this resolution increases the minimum and maximum salary ranges for the staff employees of the airport. And with that, I'd open it for any questions that you might have.
Before that, a little background. When we first started the budget process, one of the items I discussed with the board was the need to adjust our salary schedule so that the ranges were more in line with today. With the last time we did that was 7 years ago. So this is simply adjusting to make it more timely in terms of what salaries look like in the region. We did hire 2 professionals to help us do that, one on salaries and one on benefits. And the product of their work is the recommendation here today.
all right. I'd open it up for questions, discussion. Director Miller?
This was reviewed by finance and approved?
It was.
Okay. All I have.
All right. Director Gagliardi?
No, I have no questions. We thoroughly reviewed.
Director Pick?
No questions, just a brief comment. We also looked at this in the budget workshop, and it is frankly bringing our ranges to where they should be given inflation and what's happened in the economy. So it's good work.
Director Shabazian?
You said you had independent advisors helping you with that. Is there a professional organization that, in our industry, there are organizations that we can look at salary ranges where we know, because I know like with the Convention Bureau, had to look at salaries. It's like, we're not in line with what generally we are. Is there any place that you can go to refer to that, or you just have to look at independent?
We prefer independent because airports are broad-based across the country.
Sure.
And salary ranges are different in each part of the country, so we prefer independent to focus more heavily on California. Controller Wilson was able to locate the 2 firms, and maybe Mark, you can give a little brief background.
Sure. So LTC Performance is a firm that I've worked with prior to my involvement with the airport. They specialize in comp surveys and comp plan constructions, and they have the access to all the database of all the salary information that's relevant and would closest match what we have at the airport. And then they're not benefit consultants, but there was another firm that they recommended, and they looked at our benefits in terms of where the benefits were in range, and their conclusion was that the airport's benefits were good or a little bit better than, say, what market would be.
So, okay. I'll open it up to the public for comment. Is anyone on Zoom that would like to comment?
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right, I'm going to close public comment. Bring it back to the board for a motion on resolution number 1878.
We'll move adoption of resolution 1878.
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Shabazian?
Yes.
Director Gagliardi? Director Pick?
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. All right. Item number 5 is resolution number 1879, a resolution authorizing and approving the operating budget of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District for fiscal year 2025.
That would be me again. So as part of the budget workshop, basically, we look at the operating budget as kind of a distinct process, and then also the capital budget as a distinct process. And obviously they marry in terms of cash flow and capital commitments. So this resolution 1879 is for the operating expense budget, which is all the top line revenue and the operating expenses. If we think in terms of operating expenses, basically we have the salary and wages component, which is driven by the salary schedule. We have contractual obligations, primarily for fire and police services. We have actuarially determined obligations, primarily the CalPERS, UAL and related retirement benefits. And then we have the fourth category, which we term manager controlled expenses, which is up to staff to control the expenditures of the airport in a way that's consistent with the budget, but also benefits and facilitates the operating expenses of the airport during the year. So with that said, I would ask the board to consider this resolution.
And I think you said when you started that the items that we asked for were adjusted in the budget.
Correct.
So, and for those in the public, so they know, we did have a complete review of this at a Budget Finance Committee meeting, and then the full board had the opportunity to do a complete budget review with staff. So we've been over this pretty thoroughly a couple of times. So I would open this up to the public for comment. I see none. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to comment on this item? So raise your hand.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. Bring it back to the board for questions, comments. Yes.
If any of our relationships change, if it become more expensive or if they get cheaper with any of the contracts that we have, like the jurisdictions, neighboring jurisdictions, will that be how will we manage that? If it got more expensive, would we come back and amend the budget? And if it got cheaper, would we do the same?
Remembering that a budget is a guideline,
Okay.
not a fixed target, we will bring back to you any amendments that would require reflection in the budget.
All right.
If they're significant, there certainly will be a budget amendment. We try to avoid those as best
Yes.
possible.
Yeah.
We've got intelligence with most of the utility companies, with our contract service providers. We know what their charges are going to be, and we've built those in. If something inordinate happens, then we'll be back to you for an amendment.
Okay, fair enough.
And I would also add that in the monthly financial reporting process that we constantly calibrate to where we are versus budget.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Director Pick?
Thank you, Chair. Just a few comments. I want to reiterate what the Chair said. This has been a great process through Finance Committee, the board, Finance Workshop, Budget Workshop, and then today. So this, just for the audience and the public, this is the culmination of a lot of hard work on the staff's part. And I want to give particular credit to Mark. We're doing a great job, and Mike, doing a great job managing our CalPERS unfunded liability, keeping an eye on that. I think surrounding jurisdictions are struggling with that, California-wide. So, kudos to the collective ability managing that. The thoughtful work gone into revenue generation versus expenses as we look at, building a terminal and some uncertainty in the future and trying to understand what that might be. Terrific risk management. So just good work all around. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. Director Miller?
What's been our track record? It's been, actually, I'll make more of a comment than, but I'll do it in the form of a question, like on Jeopardy. What's our track record been? It's been pretty good, hasn't it, as far as estimating what our expenses are, matching up at the end of the year?
We have an excellent budget process. We have the culture in the organization is that we spend what we need to spend. We don't spend what we want to spend. And our track record's been very good over the past several years. We've been able to control expenses so that our actual expenses end up less than what we budgeted. We've been blessed with mechanical systems that still function, that don't require huge amounts of maintenance. But on the main, we typically will put between $1 and $2 million a year into reserves after. So
And that's been my recollection, that we've actually come under budget
we have.
consistently almost every year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all really I had. Thank you.
Director Chabajin? Right. I will ask for motion from the board.
I move that we pass
1879.
1879, the operating budget for year 24-25.
Okay. Could we have a roll call, please?
Director Turbajan,
Yes.
Director Gagliardi, Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you very much. Item 6 is resolution number 1880, a resolution authorizing and approving the capital budget of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District for fiscal year 2025.
That would be Chris Morello that will cover that with you.
Ms. Morello?
Good morning. Yes, thank you. Again, in front of you is the capital improvements project budget for this fiscal year 25. A number of projects moving forward that are continuing, and a few new projects that are anticipated for federal funding, as well as district-funded projects that we would like you to consider so that we can maintain our airfield and all of our properties here at the airport. Again, this was discussed in detail at the budget workshop, and I would answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you. Open it up to the public for comment. Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to comment? If so, please raise your hand.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board. Director Miller, let's start with you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions on this.
All right. Director Shabazzian,
I don't have any.
Director Gagliardi,
None for me.
Director Pick.
No, ma'am.
All right. This is about as full as that page has been.
Yeah. A lot going on.
It's a lot going on. Are there any latest additions that we think are,
No changes to what went through the process.
okay, good. Okay, I would ask for a motion for approval of resolution number 1880.
I move that we approve resolution 1880, the capital improvements project budget.
Second?
For first and a second, if I could have a roll call, please.
Director Turbajan,
Yes.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Hey,
Getting paid.
I see Brian's getting up.
He's getting
Uh,
anxious.
Item number 7 is a resolution number 1881, a resolution to award a bid to acquire replacement primary aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle to Oshkosh Airport Products, a division of Pierce Manufacturing.
And
So,
I would start, I'm going to start here and I'm going to hand it over to Brian in a second.
all right,
Now that we have a capital improvement budget for this next fiscal year, and this project was just approved within that budget, I'm going to ask Brian, he is one of the planning department's project managers, and he was the point of contact for this procurement process, to just brief you on it. So Brian Roth.
So good morning, guys. Background,
resolution 1827 approved the 2022 to 2028 airport capital improvement program budget. It was passed in July of 2022. And then resolution 1848 was the FY 24 capital improvement program budget, which was passed in June of last year. And then today with the capital improvement budget approved, all of them have called for the replacement of the primary ARC vehicle. The current vehicle is 19 years old, and it's an integral requirement for the airport under Part 139. Acquisition vehicle will replace the 2005 Rosenbauer Panther. It's exceeded its useful life. The procurement meets the advisory circular 150/5220.10, establishing the ARC vehicle specifications. Invitations for bids were published in the Monterey Herald on April 19th and April 25th, and sealed bids were received on May 20th at 1 p.m. Those two bids that we received were opened publicly at 1 p.m. on May 20th, and the proposals were from Rosenbauer, Minnesota LLC in the amount of $1,111,000, $111,046.89, and then the other from Oshkosh Airport Products in the amount of $1,050,497. The staffs found the bids to be both responsive and complete, and we recommend that the board of directors authorize the executive director as designee to approve the contract with Oshkosh Airport Products in the amount of $1,050,497 to purchase a Stryker 4x4 ARC vehicle. The contract is conditional upon receiving a grant from the FAA, and construction is expected to take approximately 550 days. So the cost of this acquisition are included in the CIP budget in the amount of 90.66%, and the balance would be PFC funding of 9.34%. And with that, I'm going to go to questions.
All right, I'll open it up to the public oh, Chris, did you want to add anything?
No, not at all. Thank you.
I'll open up to the public for comments on this item. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to comment on this item? If so, please raise your hand.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. Bring it back to the board for discussion and questions. Director Gagliotti, can I start with you?
No, I mean, we thoroughly reviewed this both in finance and in the budget workshop. I just want to take a ride in. That's a cool looking
550
vehicle. Yeah, that's years, huh? Right? I mean, how long, this thing takes 2 years to build?
550 days, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, we had asked for 365 days, which is typically what it takes to build one of these, because these are built by hand and from scratch. There is no rolling stock to fill. Because of supply chain issues, both of the providers were in the 550-day range. So we've waited 19 years. I suppose we can wait another 550 days. So, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Well,
it
no,
is.
I mean, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a great outfit.
Yeah, it will be. Thank you.
Director Pick?
No questions, just comment. It's primarily going to be FAA grant funded. Just highlight that. Great.
Director Miller?
Well, I just have a few questions. Brings up an interesting point. It takes almost 2 years to make this. What year does this, is it considered the year that it starts or the year that it finishes? Because that could make a difference, because like right now, we're looking at a 2005. Was that the year we received it, or was that?
I would go back to our structure truck, which was, we received it in 2008, so we consider it a 2008 vehicle. So I think it's when we receive it.
Okay.
But we will confirm that.
Well, I'm all for approving Oshkosh just because they didn't try to charge us 85 cents. I don't know why that other company would do that. So the 2005 that we have, that would actually still stay with us, right? That goes down to our secondary one. And what happens to the one we're using now? How old is that?
Well, that's the 2005. That one will become, that is our primary currently.
Right.
That will become our backup vehicle.
But the
And
current
then the
backup we have.
Titan- Yeah, the Titan we could sell because we purchased that with district-only funds. So
Okay.
we could sell that and put that money back into our reserves, to our operating budget.
And what year is the Titan?
2008,
2008? Okay,
That's when we bought secondhand.
correct.
That's right.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I
yeah,
remember
that was
that.
secondhand.
Yeah, we got that from San Jose, I want to say, didn't we?
No, we
Mhm.
actually got it out of Texas.
Texas,
Texas,
because they had to
okay.
drive to get it.
Yeah. We,
Okay, we'll discuss at a future time what we're gonna do with that, or,
In
yeah.
550 days.
yeah, it
Yeah.
needs to stay with us as our backup, but when we receive the new one, we'll have a recommendation for you.
okay, very good. I have no more questions, thank you.
Director Chabajin.
No, well, two vehicles are all that really you need. We don't need 3 vehicles.
In reality, FAA regulation says we need one, but we did have experience a couple of years ago where our singular vehicle became quite a maintenance problem. And in order for us to maintain air service, commercial air service, we have to provide that kind of coverage that the truck provides. So we did purchase a backup, even though FAA says we don't need one. It's illogical for us to not have one because things break.
I was gonna say, you don't have to have one, but you have to have one that is operating.
Yeah,
So that,
it's
I
one of
mean,
those.
that, yeah.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah, for
right.
commercial service, yeah, it's one of those weird things in FAA regulations where they allow airports to have one, but the backup is simply the airport's choice. We chose to provide ourselves with a backup so that we could continue to provide air service.
Yes, and I'd like a ride too.
The only comment I have is thankfully this has come along at this point. Good job. And I think just it was pretty expensive for us to make a deal with a neighboring city to use their truck when ours was not available. So I think we'll have to think long and hard if we want to get rid of one or if we want to just keep it as a additional, particularly with our fire prone area, to be able to have maximum equipment on
Yep.
our own airport where we're not relying on somebody else.
I guess it is personal preference that there be 2 vehicles to provide that unlimited coverage regardless of maintenance. And I would not recommend at any point that you look at less than that. You're already in the business. You're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. Let's make sure we have the coverage here regardless of maintenance issues.
Okay, good. I would entertain a motion on resolution number, what resolution are we on? 1881.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Director Chabajin,
Yes.
Director Gagliardi, Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes,
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Okay, now I have a question on it. So it's grant funding. So can we order it today?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Because we do have the money to pay for it and then just reimburse
Yeah,
ourselves.
and that's typically how FAA operates. So they haven't issued the grant yet, but we will order it on the strength of the good credit of the airport district.
And the grant is in their hands and programmed.
Yeah.
So it is in process.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
good. So the 550 starts hopefully today.
Today.
Perfect. Okay, resolution number 1882, a resolution authorizing professional service agreement with Auto Construction as the construction manager at risk for the new terminal facility landside improvements project. That's a mouthful.
Good morning again. Thank you. So, again, part of our capital improvement program is our safety enhancement program, which has a number of components. that we have been working on since 2020 that will ultimately allow us to move our main taxiway. That is for about 2,000 feet, which is in front of the term, from where the our facility used to sit down to Del Monte Aviation, closer this way towards the terminal building to allow separation between the taxiway and the runway center lines. So again, we started with the general aviation ramp, went on to building the ARF facility, went on to building our GA hangars, currently are building our commercial ramp, which is where the aircraft, the airline aircraft will park. And now the terminal complex is next, which, as you know, we're in design for it. But FAA has requested that we look at the landside components currently. We're not ready for the building. The building is not completely designed. But the landside components really lend well to a construction management at risk process, which we have 65% design for those currently right now. So we bring on the CMAR team. They quote this out. They go out to the, for each component to the contractors and get bids, and then come back with a guaranteed maximum price, which will allow us then to submit our grant in July for this fiscal year to get funding for this project. So the staff went out to solicitation for that CMAR team. FAA approved that process because it is a different process. It's not a design, bid, build. It's not that three-step process. So we do need to get concurrence from our funding agency, which is the Federal Aviation Administration, to do that process, and they did approve it. They approved our solicitation process. We have given them that information that we have, that you see in front of you, of what we did, how we solicited for the project. They've approved us moving forward with our recommendation of auto construction as our CMAR team. So this will be a contract for them to do this first phase, go through the bids, go through the design, the 65% design, go out and procure the cost for that with a guaranteed maximum price and bring that back to us. And then that process will stop. We will come back to you later with a contract amendment for them for both the cost, the GMP, as well as their management of the construction once we move forward. But we need all of these costs in hand to be able to submit our bid. And FAA has requested that bids be in their hands this fiscal year by July 15th. So we're moving quickly and expeditiously on this project. But we are excited that FAA has told us that they would like to fund some of the land side this fiscal year. So with that, I request that you consider Resolution 1882 and authorize the professional service agreement with auto construction. Happy to answer any questions that you might have or that I need clarification. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to open it up to the public for any questions or comments. I'll turn to Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom that would have a comment or a question? If so, please raise your hand.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. I'm going to bring it back to the board, and I will start with Director Chabajian.
I don't have any questions.
Hey, Director Miller.
This is strictly for, this has nothing to do with the terminal, right?
Correct. This is strictly for the land side components. So circulation, parking, all of the infrastructure around the building, but not the footprint at all of the building.
Would this, and I assume when we get to the terminal bid, we will select a similar firm to do the management on that, or?
The terminal building is slated to be a design bid build, so it's slightly different delivery method.
Okay,
It's the
so they'll handle their own project management? Okay.
Yeah, we'll have program and project management representation on the project, as will the contractor.
Okay, sounds good. No more questions.
Director Gagliardi.
No questions. This was thoroughly vetted. So,
Director Pick.
Good presentation, Chris.
yeah,
Thanks.
it's very-
All right, And I have no questions. It's good to see this one moving fast.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is,
Oh, yeah,
seriously,
it's,
this is like the train is leaving the station, get on.
Yeah.
It's like a dog, you wave meat in front of it, it's gonna run right there.
That's right. Okay, I would ask for a motion to approve Resolution 1882.
So moved?
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Director Turbagian,
Yes.
Director Gaglione, Director Pick,
Yes.
Director Miller,
yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Do we want to take 5 before we start?
We certainly can.
Okay,
Sure.
Oh, this is now.
Yeah.
then. And item number 9 is an extension to the parking operations agreement with Republic Parking Systems LLC for operation at the Monterey Regional Airport. And we reviewed this in finance, and one of the things that we asked for was a copy of the agreement so that we could see what it was that we were extending.
So I'd like to apologize again for that not making it into your packet. At the break, I was able to run off copies for the board. So if you like, Madam Chair, I can hand these out.
Please.
There are associated amendments. Thank you, Mark. There are associated amendments that are also printing right now. But I'm happy to walk you through the staff report and talk about this extension so that we can get
Thank you.
our operating agreement extended for a period of additional
Thank you.
24 months. Thank you so much, Mark.
And I had a question. I thought they changed their name to Reef and then Reimagined, but they're
They-
still going under Republic?
Yes, so Republic is the parent company for all other parking companies that fall under. So locally, they are reimagined, but the parent company is still Republic and is Republic in the original agreement, which you have there in front of you. So a little background, the last amendment that we exercised was in 2021. At that time, there were some improvements of hardware and software that were requested. Republic has made good on all those improvements suggested in the 2021 amendment. There will be no changes in terms of pricing, revenue model, collection. Everything will remain the same. This is simply an extension of the agreement to have them continue to maintain our parking areas for 24 additional months.
We believe this is prudent, given the fact that at some point this board may choose to take on their own parking concession. But in the interim, when there are so many changes that are occurring and will occur, we think it's prudent to have professionals there. If we were to take that on right now, it just seems like a recipe for disaster. Because we are learning parking processes, but we're not ready to take on the kind of complexity that we're going to see right now with all of the changes. So it's the purpose of the extension. It is an extension, not a renegotiation. But I did hear in Finance Committee some questions about reimbursement of revenues to the airport in the event that there's a mechanical issue. Scott can give you a little background on the agreement itself. We believe that there is very adequate language in there for them to force them to perform. They have in the past also, at our request, reimbursed us for lost revenue in the event that their systems fail. So we think we've covered that pretty well in terms of the agreement, and we validated that with legal counsel. There was one other issue that came up at finance, or am I remembering something was that the only issue? Oh.
That was the main point.
I'm sorry. It was also timeliness for repair.
There we go.
And that in fact is addressed very specifically in the existing agreement. And legal counsel has validated that as well. So we're comfortable recommending the extension of the agreement. There was no interest on the part of the concessionaire to enter into a new agreement. So I think we've got enough ammunition in the agreement to address the concerns that we heard at Finance Committee. And legal counsel's validated that. So we're comfortable recommending the extension for 2 years for that reason.
Director Pick,
Oh,
do you want to hear what we talked about in finance?
yes, exactly.
John, you want to go first? Do you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling right now because I mean, you just handed me a 45-page document and it's double-sided, and I want it to be intelligent to, come in and know, what leverage we had. That's what we specifically were using that term. It's like we're in this opportunity where we need to do this. We wanted to make sure that when we had the language that was strong enough, and I personally wanted to, to have that. Right now, I don't feel, because I want to read this. I want to reread this. I don't feel comfortable going forward yet because I want to know for myself. What we have, what tools, and the reason I say this is that because I spend a lot of time with Woody's, and and I hear over and over and over they can't get out, and it's something's broken. And the question we posed this question in finance, and the answer was, well, it's not our responsibility, which is true. It's theirs. But then it's like, okay, well, then what? And I don't have the then what.
Okay. Understanding that this agreement was adopted by previous board, and that you're a little bit behind the times in terms of knowing what's in the contract. We have two different arenas here that we're trying to serve. One is the general public.
Sure.
And second is validated parking from our restaurant concessionaire.
I know.
The validated parking from the restaurant concessionaire is an entirely separate agreement that we are not a party to. That is between the restaurant operator and Republic, Reef, Reimagined, whatever name you want to use today. So we don't have control of that component, but the mechanical systems are Reef, Republic, Reimagined. That's their responsibility. And what is in the agreement is, and legal counsel has verified this, that the timeliness of the response is preeminent, and it is well covered in the agreement. I realize you haven't had a chance to read it.
Yeah,
and I apologize that it didn't get in your hands earlier.
Can I challenge one part of it?
Yeah.
I mean, the concessionaire, that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that we're responsible to make sure that the restaurant can the validation is on us.
The validation is an agreement. We provide the validation because your agreement with Woody's says that you will give them 2 hours free parking for their customers.
Yeah.
That's why we put a validation machine down there. Our responsibility at that point ends. His negotiations with Reef Reimagined are his negotiations. So what he pays them on a monthly basis for the privilege of validating is between him and them.
Well, I mean, I don't have the intelligence here to make a decision yet, and I want that. I want to know that. And I mean, I'd actually like to see all of these things work, because it's such a he said, she said. Well, and I really just kind of want it fixed, because it just continues to keep coming up. And I just want to go and have a drink and eat there. I don't want to have to be grind. So anyway,
Your safe harbor is always go see Mike.
Well,
And you can use that, but I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
this is an elderly agreement. It's been with us for some time. And
Yeah.
it's not easy for even board members that were here at the time that it was originally adopted to recall everything in the agreement.
Yeah.
I can tell you that if it's the pleasure of the board, you can move this to the July meeting. That's not going to be a concern from our standpoint. But I can also tell you that the agreement itself has not changed from what previous boards had adopted.
And what I want to do is I just want to make sure that we can, that, I want to know where the teeth are, you know, I want to know if Mike over there, or if Tim says, you know, I'm running into problems, and then Republic says, well, it's not our fault, or, you know, it's Wi-Fi or whatever like that, and then the airport sits there, and if my response is, well, you know, go talk to Whitney or go talk to Mike, and I get, well, I have, and I'm getting nothing. It's just running around in a circle. I just think that let's just
tell
stop this.
you.
And this seems to be the one point
Sure.
that we seem to have.
Sure.
You know, the Republic needs this. And when somebody needs something, that's your opportunity to basically make sure to get agreement.
You want to address, so if you look at this agreement, let me back up. Look at this agreement sort of like a three-part, like a triangle.
Yeah.
In section 4.2, we mandate that they offer the restaurant validation.
Yeah.
Now, those rates are subject to negotiation with them, but we do mandate that. So that's an agreement between the restaurant and Republic as to purchasing the validation coupons and all of that.
Okay, so let me interrupt because Mike said that the restaurant has its own agreement. That is not correct. He does not have any contract with the parking. His only agreement is 4.2 in here that he's covered in our agreement. He does not have a separate agreement.
Okay, that would be between him and the provider then, because he does pay approximately $2,400.
That's correct. And it's in here of how that happens. And it has to do with the validation equipment that does not always work. And it has to do with, and now he finally gets a report. I mean, we have so many complaints on this as the board. We represent you in the community, so we hear what goes on. This is where we get the complaints. Excuse me, we used to get them from baggage claim. That used to be like, we'd sit in here and our heads would explode for probably 5 years over baggage claim. We finally got that fixed. Now the issue appears to be always the parking. It's always the parking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, John, I'm in here, I see things. I was talking to Denise one day and a lady come huffing up with her ticket that she couldn't get out. It's a problem. We know we've got a disruption to the community anyway. This is something, if we could fix it, the short term is not sufficient when we've got a lot of T and Cs out there taking up the curb. Carol. And so it gets crowded out there. And then when they can't get out of the lot on top of it, it backs up and it really does impact the way we service the community. So that's why I think John and I maybe spend more time around here than others, but it just seems like something we've got to get it fixed. And I don't think it's up to our concessionaire that he has to do it. He's here till 9 o'clock. Our staff goes home at 5 o'clock. And so what happens is people come up there because they've been up there. They go right back up there with the problem.
I do want to correct one thing here, though. We do not believe that it is Woody's responsibility to work with Reef for maintenance related items. That is ours. They are our concession. But I wanted you to understand that the arrangement, and if there is no agreement between them, that's fine. But the arrangement for validation and what the concessionaire pays Reef, Reimagined, whatever, is between them and not us. It's not embodied in that agreement, other than we mandate that they provide that service.
But let me finish, because this is, so in my research, I understand that. And that's why I think we brought up in finance that we want the equipment to be working, because No one's complaining about what he's paying. No one's talking about anything about that. That's in 4.2, and that is
Yep.
between him and Reef. They tell him how many validations he had and he writes the check. We're not into that. That's not our
Yeah,
business.
no,
That's
but I
between
just
him and
wanted you
Reef.
to know that it's not in that agreement beyond that one paragraph.
So,
So,
but our protection for our concessionaire and for our community is that we get the equipment to be right, which is what John and I were talking about in finance, that if they say the improvements included upgrades, but we believe that those upgrades are still not sufficient. On May 22nd, they had 7 people that could not get out of short-term parking, 7. And it was after hours. It was like at 7 o'clock at night. They were all there for a film commission, nonprofit mixer, and they all got jammed up in there. And so that's the thing that we're talking about. It's just like when we were doing another contract last year. We've got one time that we've got leverage, and that's when you're doing an extension or an agreement. And after that, too bad.
Here's what I can see, if I can finish what I was. In chapter 7, or section 7, 7.2 and 7.3 and 7.10. Really, those are the key of where they have to have the mechanic working. What I would suggest is that we document this, that we send a letter, and if need be, it can be either on airport letterhead or on my letterhead. Fine. Directing them to fix their system. They've got 30 days, the contract gives them a maximum of 30 days to correct any error that we, or any mechanical defect that we encounter. So I think we should document that, put it in writing, send it to them, so you have 30 days to fix it.
I want to be able to add things like reporting. I want them to report out. I want them to be QCing and QAing their equipment and telling me, ahead of time. That's the kind of stuff that I'm.
Well, and they've had situations there where you go in and you can't, they're like, the machine isn't working. So when you go down, you're gonna have to push the button,
Right.
telling me we're at Woody's. And it was for extended, it's been for extended period of time. 30 days for something like that, I don't think is acceptable. I mean, that's something that needs to be addressed, because then people are being inconvenienced, as is the restaurant, because he's getting yelled at all the time.
I think there's a misperception here that we are not on top of that, and we are. What Scott is recommending is more of a formal approach, and we have not taken that yet. But we do work regularly with the folks at Reef Reimagined to address the systems. We've put in place protocols that are much more formal than we have been in the past. And I think, I don't want anyone, first of all, to go away thinking that we're not addressing that, because we are. Whitney can give you a little bit of a rundown on the protocols that we use. We are as much on top of it as we can. If it is the pleasure of the board, we will put formal notice on Reef and tell them they have 30 days to correct all of the issues and be done. I mean, it's as simple as that. We know that there are problems. We know that there are issues, and we're on top of it. So I don't know, Whitney, you want to run through the protocols?
Yeah, happily. And I just want to make a comment. There was an issue early in 2024 where validations went catastrophically wrong. And there were additional protocols that were put in place as a result of that. One of those is that operations staff checks daily that the validators are online. And I have a staff member doing that at the top of the day and then at midday. As far as May 22nd, and I've talked to the restaurant operator, we need to know when these things are going out, because as far as I'm concerned, the last time that we had a major outage was in January. Everything that we're talking about now, we have had no issues. And again, my operations staff goes over to the restaurant to check on their validator to make sure that things are working. So I think it would be prudent for me to get with the restaurant operator and just kind of go over their internal process, just so that we can make sure that we're getting that communication if it is going down. Typically, the systems run to a central point. So if ours is down here at admin, likely theirs is down up there as well. And we have not had any major issues with ours going down in admin. So suffice it to say, I would think that they have not either. And again, that's information that we're not privy to. So that's something that I'll work on my behalf. As far as the upgrades that took place in 2021, I don't know that we had that push to talk feature. I don't know that that existed back then. So it is an improvement from what we had prior. There is issue with how long it takes after you hit that push to talk to get someone. And Republic has worked on that to make the dial by push faster. And we've streamlined the communication. Initially, there was a need for a name, a time, a parking lot, a bunch of information that seems superfluous to the customer, but is necessary to charge back. But again, at the behest of the restaurant, we've streamlined that process so that those validations are still accounted for by saying, hey, just say you were at Woody's. Now the people of the call center know what that means so that everything can process seamlessly behind the scenes.
And I want to be clear that I'm not saying that you're not following up. I'm just thinking they are not being as timely. It's like the staff is after them. I'm not clear that they're responding as quickly as they could be.
We have a great relationship with our manager, Scott, and even higher up the chain, his manager's manager, Greg. I talk to Scott at least twice a week, especially with the transition of parking happening now. So I think that the comms are there. And we'll continue to improve. I'll leave it at that.
So, one of the things I think we heard after the mess in January was that the router or wireless wasn't sufficient, and that was what was going down. It was a Wi-Fi issue. I think that's what we heard.
Yeah, that's one of several issues that we're addressing. The Wi-Fi network is a mesh network, and if you lose one component of it, for whatever reason, there's a hiccup, you lose that portion of it. But we've been working with Republic and their provider hub to correct that, and of late it seems to be working much better. Then you have some mechanical issues with the equipment down below, and those are being addressed as needed. When they occur, they're addressed. To the best of everyone's ability, we believe they're doing as good a job right now as they can do. It is incumbent upon my staff to ride herd and make sure that they continue to do so.
Well,
I want to read this. I want to read it because thank you, Scott, for pointing out which sections to kind of focus in on, but I haven't read it. Now I wanted to read it, and I wanted to be more informed and know exactly where we had our levers.
That it would
so
be
maybe we
appropriate
give
for
this,
the board.
kick it to next month and give Whitney time to talk to to Tim Wood down at Woody's to make sure that things are going, and that we make sure that the equipment is working, that if there's anything we need to deal with, that you all need to deal with them, that they get it fixed, and that we'll bring it back for a vote in July. Is that the pleasure?
Fine
of the
by me.
board?
Whitney, appreciate your work.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Sometimes I do forget my pass and I have to get a validation here. And, I've been told that, we're having problems with the valid. I was told once, I remember, and that was probably a month ago, that it wasn't validating, but when I put it in, it was validated. I guess it just wasn't telling us here that they were validating the tickets. So it does sound like there's an equipment problem that needs to be addressed at the admin validator too.
And they are continually responsive to that. It's that immediate thing that I'm hearing the board is concerned about, where people drive up, they have a validated ticket and they won't open the gate.
Yeah.
That is something entirely different. If it's caused by the equipment, that is a Republic thing. If it's not caused by the equipment, it could be an improper validation. It could be a number of things that cause that. But if it's the pleasure of the board, we can wait until the July meeting to extend.
Yeah,
So that you
yeah.
have a chance to familiarize yourself with the agreement that was already agreed to.
Yeah, I'm good with that, and especially to give you an opportunity to maybe dig into this a little bit deeper. But on a positive note, I know that they've been doing a great job, haven't they, managing the parking spaces and the mess, and they're actually putting people in spaces that are safe but are not really parking spaces to make it work for everybody. So that's kudos for them for doing that.
They have done a remarkable job with the increase in traffic and the decrease in the number of parking stalls we have. It's incredible what they've been able to do. You know, they seem to enjoy that. It's a challenge for them. They must love playing chess.
Masochistic.
Yeah, maybe.
So I do owe you 3 amendments. Those are on the copier. I'll get those to you guys before you depart today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll see this in July.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we had board and committee, we had committee reports and department reports that were in your packages. We've already accepted the committee reports. We need to change that heading. So we have the acceptance of the department reports. Did anyone from the public have any comment on any of the department reports that were in the agenda? Does anyone from the board have a comment on any of the items that were?
Yeah, I have a
All right,
question and a comment. Mark, for the employments, when you list the April employments, you say year-to-date, 220,000. Is that fiscal year-to-date? So that's not counting a full 12 months, right? Okay. But so here's the comment part. Just doing a running, going back 12 months, I did some math and it's 267,771 employments. And in my 18 years here on the board, that is the most employments we've ever had. So that's good news from an employment stance, what's happening here at the airport.
And Carl, if I may, Chair, that's with less flights. It's not a commensurate increase in the number of flights. The larger aircraft are carrying those employments efficiently and effectively. It's great.
Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Director Chabajin, anything on the reports? Director Gagliotti?
None.
Director Pick?
Nope.
So I heard none. I had nothing on the reports to discuss, so we will move on to the sorry. Ad hoc committee. The only thing, the local jurisdiction, I did speak to the city of Pacific Grove at their council meeting. And I was on the agenda for 6:30 and I was finally at the podium at around 10. And so I gave my presentation and there was only one person from the public still on because that had been a long meeting for everyone. And the from the council, I've got a couple of notes back saying that they appreciated that we were there and updating them on what we're doing with the terminal. So anyway, I have Seaside scheduled, and Greenfield scheduled for this next month. Local Agency Formation Commission, we meet on Monday, and so we have no annexations or anything that are in front of the commission at this point. Regional Taxi Authority,
Thank you, Chair. The annual meeting of the Regional Taxi Authority is scheduled for July 8th.
big responsibility.
Weighty task.
But things are so much better once we made that authority that that used to be the other thing, that our room was full of complaints. Transportation Agency, Director Miller?
So I did attend the executive meeting, nothing really to report. There's still waiting to come to a decision on Highway 68 as far as roundabouts or not, but it seems to be tilting the other way. They seem to be going for a adaptive signaling has been the push, especially from the community.
For where, Carl?
This is on Highway 68.
Okay.
Um,
Instead of the roundabouts?
instead of roundabouts. Yeah,
Oh.
that seems to be the push right now, especially from the public. And then you've got the sheriff and the fire district also recommending that. Now, Tampsey's position is those signals are spaced so far apart that it'd be hard to line them all up. So, and then the public's concern is that the time that they're estimating that they will gain is only minutes. It's not going to be that long. But I mean, I just avoid, for those of you that have gone out on 68, you know, you have to, I go Reservation Road because you get stuck out there for half an hour or an hour or more. It's terrible. People are very upset, not that it has anything to do with the airport, but on the proposed train from Marina to Monterey. The- No, it's a train. There's a group that really wants the tracks to have a train on it. Tampsey has recommended against that, went with the bus. But you still have a group out there that prefers a light rail. And now the light rail people, there's a group now that has a pedal car, I guess, or a push car. The hand car that, you know, they're upset because they think they may lose it, but the Tampsey did buy the right of way for that. So they may have to sell that right of way and give the money to the state. So that's something that's in the works too. So, nothing really to report other than that.
Special districts did not meet, and they will meet in July.
Okay.
Third Tuesday. And MPAD, I was out, I was gone, and I did not attend, so I cannot report, I don't know. So, there's nothing else. We are ready for closed session.